Yeah.
Hello again, my name is Dean Graves. I'm one of the co-founders of Prima Healing Meditation. This is the second in the Archetype series, talking about human archetypes. And we will be covering tonight the minds and the rest of the archetypes. And just to briefly review, the archetypes are how we live life. Archetypes are forms for all beings that are in creation. They vary from geographic area to geographic area, as well as from density level to density level. In our solar system, which is our geographic area, that every planet in our solar system shares the same archetypical system that we do. There are 22 archetypes, which is the maximum number of archetypes available. Only from the standpoint that's all that's been tried yet. There's potentially much more, many more than that. But the archetypes evolve, and as you move closer to, for example, the center of our galaxy, the specific archetypes and how the archetypes are configured and arranged vary. For the sake of understanding, the closer to the center of the galaxy that you get, they become more simplistic and fewer in number. As evolution has progressed and as the galaxy has expanded, the number of archetypes and the mixture of archetypes has also expanded and become more complex. The experience that we are enjoying at this time is the highest number of archetypes and the most complex. So we are in a difficult experience for a variety of reasons. You begin an experience in a set of archetypes. If you move to another experience outside of, for example, our solar system, then you can form and experience the archetypes that are prevailing in that geographic area. We have on Earth, at this point in time, we have a total of 16 sources of beings that are going through the third density experience. 13 minor and 3 major. We're from all over the place. We're the Australia of third density experiences.
Say that again. The 16 versus 22.
Well, 22 archetypes. There are 16 beings that originated in different planets that have been accumulated here. Earth is a second chance planet, so everyone going through the third density experience on Earth, which is roughly half of the population, has been to at least one other experience and not been able to graduate. So we're giving it the college try here in the last waning days of this experience to try to graduate more beings. Okay? Make sense? And I'm not going to review a lot of the stuff that we covered. If you're watching this on YouTube and have not seen the first segment or part 1, then a lot of this probably won't make sense to you. So I encourage you to go back and watch that first, and this hopefully will make more sense. But one of the most, before we get that, a review just a little bit. Where our spirit, our mind-body-spirit complex is what we are. We evolved as a complex because of the archetypes, because of our veiling, our sequestering from communication with our higher self, and our forgetting. which means we forget all of our past lives and all the fun we've had and trying to go through a lifetime before in the past. All of that together, but principally the veil is what makes our beingness complex. And it has proven to greatly enhance our objective, which is to create opportunities for the Creator to know itself by experiencing itself. So we are on the cutting edge, as it were, on creating experiences for the Creator in our third density experience. But our spirit is the only aspect of us that is experiencing life. Our mind was created by our spirit. Our body is created by our mind. And while the mind and the body are essential parts of our beingness, they are not the experiencer. Only our spirit is the experiencer. The mind is an integral part and an essential part of our beingness of who we are. And we actually have a multitude of minds that we deal with unknowingly. And has anybody ever thought about what your mind is? Certainly we all have a mind and we can kind of experience the mind, but most people have never stopped to think, what is a mind? How does it distinguish itself from our spirit? And it's an interesting awareness to have as you go through the process. And if you recall from our series in the fall, what creates the possibility for creation is the Creator's creation of a distortion within itself. And that distortion, the first distortion, is free will. Free will facilitates the possibility of all of creation, and it remains an integral part of our experience as we go through creation and the evolutionary path. And if you recall, we have 8 densities, which are levels of consciousness. We reside at this point in time in the third density. We're right here. We began in first density, which for this ease of understanding is inorganic matter. We evolved to second density, which is our plants and animals. We are in third density. We, as third density beings, are of the energy of sixth density, and actually were created by sixth density energy. We are preparing, hopefully, to graduate to fourth density. And part of what we're going to go through tonight is what's happening and how and when we get to graduate. But the creation of the mind occurs because of the creation of free will. The cosmic mind is the first mind that is created after the Creator created free will. There's no distinction, and we all have the cosmic mind. There is no addition to any of these layers of mind. There is only obscurance of the mind. So, 8th density and the cosmic mind is the Creator's spirit. Intelligent infinity is the Creator's mind, with the only exception that it perceives itself to be separate from the Creator because of free will. Okay? We have this mind. We have access to this cosmic mind, but only with great effort, considering where we are today. Eighth density becomes the creator of all of creation. Everything within creation, other than free will, was created by eighth density beings. And eighth density beings are not separate from the creator by any means other than their perception that they are separate from the creator. Seventh density retains the cosmic mind. I'm trying to make these look a little different, so. Okay, this in seventh density, what creates the root mind are 15 dimensions. Small d indicates dimensions, large d indicates densities. And DNA, which we talked about before, is not the physical manifestation of DNA that we think of. It is the coding that actually creates the 64 strands of DNA. This creates the seventh density mind. Seventh density does not have a body like we perceive a body. Seventh density is dispersed light. It's not a body of light, it is dispersed light. Seventh density is everywhere. Seventh density, just to review briefly, their consciousness construct is what holds all of the physical creations of creation in place. Seventh density creates sixth density. And with that, another type of mind. Oops, went too far.
That's supposed to stop at the end of 3.
That's supposed to stop at the end of 3.
Well, maybe not.
That was the exclamation point. That's 1 for yes and 2 for no.
And what creates the sixth density mind is called the deep mind. I don't have room to write all this. This is called the deep mind in sixth density, and it extends through fifth, fourth, and third.
What was the mind in seventh density?
Root.
This is the root mind.
Okay.
What creates the sixth density mind are 8 of the 15 dimensions in a range of DNA from 41 to 63. So if you follow this, all of the mind that there really is the cosmic mind. And by the addition of governors, restrictors, you begin to get variable capacity of mind functioning. In seventh density, you get all of the full cosmic mind, except as is limited by 15 dimensions and 64 strands of DNA. Sixth density, again, the same cosmic mind, called the deep mind. This is the same as seventh density has, same as eighth density, but it's restricted by 8 dimensions and 61 to 63 strands of DNA. Fifth density, restricted even farther. Same mind as sixth density, but it's limited to 7 dimensions 33 to 40 DNA. If you remember from what we presented in the fall, as we move up the scale, we're actually activating additional DNA and getting additional capacity to add consciousness. Consciousness, again, is the Creator's energy, intelligent infinity, in governed or limited degrees.
And this is called what mind?
This is the archetypical mind. Okay? Fifth, fourth, and third density participate in the archetypical mind. The archetypical mind is part of the creation of sixth density of the total experience. So all beings in our solar system, fifth, fourth, and third density, all share this archetypical system that we're talking about. But in fifth density, again, it's refined. There's nothing added. This is refined by 7. It's taken, one dimension is taken away. So you have fewer DNA strands available and fewer dimensions available. Okay? Which, if you will notice, these significantly change the nature of the experience at each density level, and significantly limits the amount of consciousness available. So this level of consciousness available between 33 and 44 just simply is more limited. It changes the whole nature of the experience. Fourth density, where we hopefully are going to graduate to, has 6 dimensions and 25 to 32 strands of DNA. I saw a thing on the internet the other day. Some guy was advertising a program. If you pay him some money, he'll activate all 32, your DNA strands up to 32.
It's a special meditation for that.
Apparently it's more than special meditation. Electroshock therapy and some other things are involved, I understand. But this is not something that you're going to attain by paying somebody money to have something performed to you or give you the magic key. You do this by getting additional consciousness. You do this by doing the work through the archetypical system to clear your lower energies and gain the additional consciousness necessary to do the work of fourth density. And we already know from previous information that had been given to us, and we delivered in earlier presentations, that our DNA now is up to 24 strands of DNA. Artificially, we didn't earn it, but we were restricted from having it, so we've got the maximum strands of DNA available to us in third density. That's not the same thing as consciousness. That's the capacity to add the additional consciousness to prepare to graduate to fourth density. Third density.
So there isn't a new strand for after this, right? There's nothing, you didn't draw any more pictures, so I'm just curious. That was,
Well,
it's all sort of holed up in there?
well, now we've got, yeah, it's,
You stopped at 7D, so you didn't have one for 6D, and now you have 4th dimension, I mean.
well, the only difference is the limitation in capacity.
Right, okay. But it would
So
still
fourth
stop
density, this is the same mind. This is the archetypical mind right here.
and it would still stop at the beginning of 3rd density.
the archetypical mind runs from 5th density down to 3rd density. This is the same mind, we just have additional limitations because of the strands of DNA and the dimensions that are available to us.
Okay.
And the same is true in our level. It's the same mind, like it or not, that is limited by four dimensions, and from 17 to 24 DNA. You recall we discussed in Science is documented that we've been stuck. They thought we weren't using all of this DNA up here yet because it was part of our ancient history. We just haven't gotten there yet. We were stuck at 17 strands or 20 strands of DNA being activated. And now we have 24 strands of DNA activated. As of December 21st, we got the last 2. They're apparently activated in pairs. We have until August 6th, 2013, in order to fill our 24 strands of DNA with enough consciousness to polarize, either positively or negatively, to graduate to 4th density. If we don't fill enough DNA with consciousness and polarized by August 6th, then we're going to do 3rd density over again. We're not going to die. There's not going to be a mass death that I'm aware of on the planet. You know, you're in a lamed up situation. You don't get to vote anymore. Okay? So this is where we are now. This is where we're going. This is all the same mind with additional governors or limiters put on the mind. Okay? We have also the conscious mind. The conscious mind is synonymous with our ego. It is, in its intensity, limited to 3rd density because we're the only density that has veiling and forgetting. In 4th density, they do not have any veiling. They do not have the forgetting. And it is significantly different from 3rd density. And by significant, I mean we have different kinds of bodies. They look pretty much the same, but they're electric bodies as opposed to chemical bodies. We have access to 2 additional dimensions, one of which being the 0 dimension, the other being the 5th dimension. And a lot of people talk about the 5th dimension. The 5th dimension is time. We get to move forward and backward in time. The 0 dimension permits us the capabilities of moving into time-space and back to space-time and into time-space and back to space-time, which means that we will be able to go in and view the lifelines and participate in many more lifelines than we are right now. Right now we have one lifeline that we perceive. We perceive it to be linear, and we just follow in this one life path. 4th density is significantly different from that. We're experiencing several lifelines simultaneously. But we will have 4 times the consciousness. Okay?
Okay. I'm sorry if this is dumb question, but we got off onto this explanation because the question was, what is a mind? And then this, because of each of the different densities having limitations that affect our experience, is this the representation of each of those minds? So you're saying the
Yes.
very end one would be the conscious mind. What's the next one?
Well, the conscious mind is essentially our ego. This is the archetypical mind.
But I thought the first one was the conscious mind, the one that only was in the 3rd density zone, that very small one.
Yeah, well, I'm trying to illustrate to correspond with that.
Right, so The first one, the short one, is in the third density area, and that represents this 4 dimensions plus the 17 to 24.
Yeah, we've got cosmic mind here, we've got the root mind here, we've got the deep mind here, we've got the archetypical mind, and then the conscious mind. But that was just for purposes of illustration to show that it continued into third density.
Gotcha.
But there's not an additional mind beyond the conscious mind. This is where we live in the conscious mind, in the ego, in this level of consciousness. Regrettably. Okay? Any questions about that before we move on? The mind is a filter. It filters information coming into us. It also transmits the information to our spirit. Our body is nothing more than a sensor. I say nothing more than our sensor. Most of us live in our body level of existence, so it's pretty important. We're extremely attached to physical. When I say the body, I'm talking about physical in general. But it is nothing more than a sensory apparatus to provide information to our mind, which then interprets it and sends it to the spirit.
Do I remember correctly that you said that the deep mind was how we work when we're meditating or something?
Yes.
Like that?
Yes. As you go into deep meditation, as you progress, as you detach from the physical, okay, the more that you can shut out the conscious mind, the deep mind is immediately available. And that's what you experience. And if you've experienced in meditation just being out of your body, just not feeling your body, you're out of the physical. You can continue that to move out of your thoughts, those rambling thoughts that don't ever stop for many people. You are in the deep mind. You can move beyond the deep mind and experience the root mind. In meditation, it is possible to do that at our level of consciousness. And with each escalating level of mind, well, I shouldn't say escalating, each layer of mind that you are able to unattach from, you move in to the level of knowingness that automatically is included in that level of mind. Because you're doing away with the restrictions. You already have it here. And all of the ancient spiritual teachers tell us that we have everything that we need inside of us. It's just a matter of getting in touch with that. And that is actually the fact. What we're learning to do in meditation is unattach from the governors. Just going around the governors, unattaching from the physical, unattaching from our conscious mind restrictions. And we're experiencing ourselves. We're not getting anything new, we're just getting rid of stuff. Okay? Okay, so that's the mind. Our minds. Okay, now the last session we had presented an overview or an outline for the archetypes. We have 22 archetypes. We have 7 for the spirit, 7 for the mind, and 7 for the body. And I'm going to do this in reverse order. Last time we had presented this with the matrix on the bottom. Just for illustration, ease of writing purposes, I'm going to start with the matrix on the top. But our flow of energy goes from the matrix through the rest of the archetypes. Each of the archetypes, each and every one of them, is matched with free will. We have, this again is a process fractal. So every experience that we have, every being that is in creation experiences an archetypical system. The nature of the archetypical system varies with the level of consciousness. In our universe / logos, we have a 9 archetypical system, 9 aspect system. There are 9 aspects to the Creator that is the framework for everything that happens in our universe. And again, universe I'm using for sake of easy identification. Universe is essentially our geographic area. But there's an infinity of universes. Each is different from the other. Where we have 9, other universes have from 1 to 32 archetypes to work with. Those archetypes are actually aspects of the Creator. They are the same archetypes that were created for us in the lower densities of 5, 4, and 3. But we begin with the matrix of the spirit, which is the Da aspect of the Creator. Da is the aspect of movement. Da is also the matrix for the mind. This is the characteristic of the rational mind, or our ego. The matrix for the body is very simply movement. But it is still the characteristic of Da. Physical does not have the option of not moving. Even when we perceive ourselves to be sitting really, really, really still, the earth is still turning, the solar system is still rotating, the galaxy is still rotating, the universe is still rotating, all of creation is rotating. There is no possibility of not moving while we are in creation. It is movement that keeps us in creation. If you recall from previous conversations, the Creator is found in absolute stillness, absolute stability. The Creator is inside and outside of creation, and it is only a small part of the Creator, I presume it's a small part of the Creator, that is actually in creation. It's how the Creator experiences itself. And it does that through movement. Creation has no opportunity to not be in movement in some form or fashion. To experience healing, to experience the awarenesses that go with the different levels of mind that we just talked about, we move towards more stillness. As we progress up the density scale, we slow down. We don't stop, but we lose the speed or that energy that goes with the lower densities in the faster movement. So when people say that we are speeding up, that time is speeding up, it's not. We're slowing down. So it perceived by us that we're going faster. But we are actually going slower as we evolve. Fourth density moves more slowly than we do. Fifth density moves more slowly than fourth density, and so forth. Okay? Matrix is male energy. Okay. And if you notice the characteristics of the matrix, this is the farthest away from the Creator. This is the characteristic of spirit is darkness. It is primeval darkness. It is unknowingness. And you would think, I thought originally, well, if the rational mind, that's not the farthest away from the Creator, but it is. As far as the mind's perspective is, our ego is an additional layer that moves us farther away from the Creator in perception only. Movement keeps us farthest away from the Creator in the physical. Okay? None of this moves, really. There's no, when I say move, no, there's no upward spiral, there's no upward drive to return to the Creator. This is, all three of these layers, these categories are deemed to be as far away from the Creator as you can go without falling off the edge. So we need an attractor to bring the energy back. And that is how creation works. That's how evolution works. We move far away from the Creator, as far as we can, and then work our way back. You can't evolve, the Creator can't know itself by exceeding itself. So the only way for the Creator to know itself is to go as far away from the Creator as can be, and then return that. So from that perspective, in order for the Creator to know itself, it essentially has to, as much as possible, divorce itself from itself and then return that energy, us, consciousness, to itself. In other words, it's not a two-way street. Since the Creator's all that there is, you can't exceed the Creator, but you can reduce the amount of the Creator in each experience. And that's how evolution works. Okay, since this is so far away, this begins so far away from the Creator, in order to move this, it was deemed that you need to pair with the matrix what's called a potentiator. You have a potentiator of each, mind, body, and spirit. As the potentiator, you have darkness as the matrix for the spirit. The characteristic of that is light. But this is not sunshine light, this is information, knowingness, knowledge. the aspect characteristic of this is saw. Saw is the aspect of awareness. All 9 aspects of the Creator are included in the 22 archetypes. Obviously, some of them are repeated. But again, and I missed an important point I wanted to cover. Not only is each archetype one of these guys, in the first level they were all Da, all movement, but there was also Melchizedek, which is free will. We have the free will to interpret our experience at every level of archetype. And what the choice is at every level is either absorption or radiance of love and light. Love is the creative principle of all of creation. And by our choice at each level, not for the whole column, but at each level, determines our polarity. Whether we are choosing service to self or service to others. So even at the matrix levels, farthest away from the Creator, that movement by our intent of service to others is service to self being absorption, service to others being radiance of love and light, begins our polarization. As long as we remain in the lower levels of consciousness and refuse or are unable to choose radiance or absorption of love, then we stay in those lower levels of consciousness and repeat the loop over and over and over and over. It is as we polarize, as we begin to choose service to self or service to others, that we begin to raise our consciousness. And as we raise our consciousness, we invariably will begin to choose which way we're going for the rest of our evolutionary process. Whether we're going to be a radiant source of Creator's energy, service to others, or whether we're going to choose the path of separation and absorb, keep, get love and light. So, the potentiator for the mind, the aspect, is Lucifer. Lucifer, of course, is the characteristic of unconsciousness. Unconsciousness becomes the upward spiral, the attractor, the motivator for the matrix of the mind to move from the separated mind, the monkey mind, the conscious ego mind, through the system. Okay? This is the potentiator is female energy. Matrix was male energy. Female potentiates the male energy. And the potentiator of the body is law, which is wisdom. The characteristic or the aspect of law essentially is balance. The body cannot move, cannot do anything but move in the matrix of the body. And it is through balance and even functioning of the potentiator that attracts that faraway matrix to begin to move back towards the Creator. And this again is female energy. So this characteristic or aspect is Sol, which is awareness. It is light available from the darkness. This level, Lucifer, is unconsciousness, which moves the ego mind back towards the Creator. Ego mind being the farthest separated mind. Wisdom, or even functioning or balance, beginning to move the body. The movement of the body back towards the Creator. And again, at every level of this, we have to consider that Melchizedek, free will, is a part of the decision-making process. So we can either choose to absorb or radiate information and light. We can choose to absorb or radiate the unconsciousness, the love of unconsciousness. And likewise the same with balance. We can either, the love available in that experience by radiating or absorbing. Okay? These first two, the matrix and the potentiator, were part of the process back at the center of the galaxy. Almost every experience has the matrix and the potentiator. All the experiences did not have the body. So you have experiences that are supposedly ending at near this time, at about this time, that only had the spirit and the mind in the columns of the archetypes. Okay? Too far. Each aspect of the Creator, the 9 aspects that comprise our universe, are not dimensional. They're multiple elements to them. It is part of our task in our evolutionary process to become aware of the expansiveness of each of these aspects. It's not required to go from 3rd density to 4th density, but as we move into 4th density, we will work to a large degree on learning and experiencing the depth and diversity of each aspect of the Creator. We are, on this planet, a raw planet, which is love. We are in a law, which is wisdom, geographic area, sun. So one of the additional difficulties or compounding experience creators for our experience is that we share what's called a racial mind of raw influence and law influence. Most experiences don't do that. They're either a raw planet or a law planet or SAW or whatever. And so we have that additional compounding of a mixed racial mind to deal with, which just makes it more fun. And since we have 16 different sources of beings participating in our experience, and they almost all began on other planets, they began in another archetypical system. We began in another archetypical system and had to adapt and take on all 22 archetypes. So if a number of beings came from a planet that only had, say, 14 archetypes, and they went through two life or 3rd density cycles with 14 archetypes, and then we get shipped to Earth and we've got to deal with 22 archetypes, that's an additional compounding of the difficulty of getting through this experience. Okay? The next layer is catalyst, and starting to get more interesting. Huh?
Your first catalyst is weird.
Oh, it is.
It's a little off.
It's well, it's of the spirit. It's carolist.
You think you're
You
on.
need to take the R out.
Yeah, the R has
The
it.
T.
Sounds like you have Carol on the mind.
Yes, I think so.
C-A-T.
Cat. Thank you.
C-A-T-A.
How's that?
How about you look at the other ones that you already read?
It's good, it's good.
Okay, well, you know what it is. It's catalyst. That's what you get for thinking one word and writing another.
Yeah.
Okay. The catalyst of the spirit is law, which again is wisdom. If you recall, law was also the aspect of the potentiator of the body. And here we have the characteristic of faith, hope. This is the only way we get to know things in this level of consciousness. We do not get absolute proof. And that is by design, because this is the catalyst for us to evolve through this archetypical system. Now, of course, Melchizedek is part of this, so we begin getting into some very interesting possibilities, and I don't know how to characterize this other than the opposite of faith being despair. We choose through our free will whether we're going to have faith or whether we're going to have the opposite of that. Which, by despair, I mean the rejection of faith. Not just doubt, but a rejection of faith. This also is female energy. Our choice, free will, this is the free will that we have. It's not a matter of choosing to go to California as opposed to North Carolina. All of that's planned in our life. What we choose is how we interpret our experiences, whether we absorb or radiate love.
So could you say as an example, it'd be kind of like the pendulum swing that somebody goes through when maybe they say they claim that they're an atheist? So they kind of swing, they've lost faith, they don't think there's anything other than what it is, and that would be something.
Yeah, that's a good example. And as we go through the process, we're going to vacillate. That vacillation back and forth is the process of refining who we are. Yeah, that's a good example. Callous of the mind, again, is Saw. And we've already seen Saw as the potentiator for the spirit. And this one is a fun one. It's the characteristic of pain and suffering. We had unconsciousness, or we have consciousness, the monkey mind, we have unconsciousness, and the power of the mind begins to emerge. We can either choose to interpret all of our experiences as pain and suffering, or we can choose not to do that. We can choose to experience them with positive energy, with comfort. And this is the essence of the teachings of the Lezhang traditions of Buddhism, that you learn to appreciate the negative experiences in life as much as you do the positive experiences, because it gives you opportunities, catalysts, to learn and grow and heal. And you do that, we talked about this last week, as you continually go through this system, each time choosing the positivity or the radiance of love in interpreting light, you learn a little bit more with each one. And the more you pay attention, the more you learn, the more light that you get, the more easy it is to see each experience as offering the opportunity for healing, for moving up in your consciousness process. Catalyst of the body is Ka. Ka is non-movement. And in that non-movement, you have the characteristic of sensory input. So you have the matrix, which is movement. We have no option but to continue to move from a body standpoint. We have wisdom and judgment, balance as a potentiator. And we have, as a catalyst, the option to either not move and experience, or to continue to experience sensory input. And you know from meditation that our objective is to shut out all this sensory input so that we have the energy to go inside and become aware. And become aware of that light, of the faith and hope, to be able to choose the wisdom or the awareness of the benefit of our difficult experiences, and begin to move out of the unconsciousness. And this whole segment in here is, again, female energy. So we have male energy at the matrix, female energy at the potentiator, female energy at the catalyst. Okay. You want to go on a few minutes more? Everybody good with that? Okay. Does anybody have any questions? After we...
So we're working our way through... So we're working our way through each of the archetypes right now. So there's going to be 22 of these sections that we're going to go through.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right.
Yeah, well, we've done 3, 6, 9.
Okay.
We've done 9 of them. Next is experience in all 3 levels. In the aspect of the experience of the spirit, again, is law, which is wisdom. Characteristic of that is a free will choice of ego, which is separateness. Versus surrender of our separateness. Experience is male energy. The experience of the mind aspect is Ta. Ta is the creator's aspect of separation. That is the experience of the mind. As long as we have the mind, we have the experience of separation. It is the characteristic of emotion. That's where emotions come into play. Of the body, the aspect of saw, which is awareness. It is the characteristic of sensory input. It is survival versus non-survival. Still very basic over here dealing with the body. And again, this is male. Okay, everything that we've covered to date, or so far, from the matrix to the potentiator to the catalyst to the experience, does not take place in space-time. All of this takes place in time-space. This is not in our physical existence that any of this occurs, including the sensory input. It is only after we apply the emotion to our experience. And this is all one experience. We don't have just a body experience. We don't have just a mind experience. And we don't have just a spirit experience. Our spirit is what actually experiences this. Our mind filters it. Our body does the sensory input stuff. But this is a flow of energy through all of this essentially at the same time from our perspective. It is a flow of how it goes from matrix to potentiator to catalyst to experience. And most commonly we would perceive this to begin at the matrix of the body, sensory inputs, physical world, attachment, and all of that, and flow like this up the chart. But it flows pretty much evenly, interpreted this way. And this is the guy that brings it in, the experience of the mind is what brings it into our physical perception, physical world.
So the sentence was, only after we apply our emotion to the experience does it come into space-time?
Yes. Yes. All of this takes place in time-space, which is the metaphysical world. Okay? Any questions? You thought you were going to have time to figure all this out before you had another experience, didn't you? So, well, I'll do that one first, and then I'll do this one over here. Okay. Now we come to another interesting one. Not that they're all not interesting. It's called the Significator. All three of these are the Creator's aspect of Ra, which is love. The significator of the Spirit is, as we've been talking about, the choice of radiance or absorption. All that we have to work with is love. And it's our choice whether we choose to radiate it or to keep it for ourselves and absorb it. That is what we are here to do, is to make the choice of being service to self, absorption, or service to others. And we do that at every aspect of every experience that we have. Obviously, unconsciously, for a lot of the process. But that's why our intent becomes so important. And again, if you recall from what we talked about last time, our consciousness level begins over here in the corner, and as we evolve through the process, and as we begin to make those choices of absorption or radiance of love, our consciousness level comes higher up on the scale, and we function about 50% of the consciousness level available to us in this level of consciousness is going to be about centered in the middle of the mind. And as we move beyond that 50%, we start moving into higher levels of consciousness. The love, the joy, the enlightenment. Okay, the characteristic, I said, was raw. These are our biases and prejudices. We can, at this point, choose to remain unconscious, react to life, or we can choose willingness. Willingness to experience it with love as opposed to just doing the same thing over and over and over. This, by the way, is female energy too, all the way across. Okay, when we get over to the body, the characteristic, the choice, is illness. Versus health. Our choices manifest in the physical. So we're literally choosing illness over health by the way we interpret our experiences.
And but that is mainly for entities going through the third density experience, because it seemed that some of the illnesses created, like for example Carla's, were really due to her being so high of consciousness that her sixth density being was having a hard time being in a third density body.
No, she's fifth density.
Fifth density.
But no, that's not the reason. She chose some pre-incarnate catalysts that included illness.
Illness, okay.
So, in other words, you don't necessarily start with a clean slate. If you have a certain thing you need to do, like a wander, then you program that in, and you have that to overcome. But it's programmed in to your archetypes. Of course, most of us just choose it out of ignorance, but gee, that looks like fun. I'll be sick this time. Okay, any questions about the significator? Significator is very important. The significator was a later addition, as I was talking before, about the evolution of the archetypes away and in gaining in complexity. The significator was essentially added on down the road to add to the complexity of the situation. Now it is above the significator, if there is a geographic location, that the veil is installed. The veil is an electromagnetic shield. The Lucifer is forgetting. Forget all your past lives. which is the potentiator of the mind, it is synonymous with the forgetting part. But the veil is an additional governor or intensifier to our experience. We don't get to talk to our higher self. We don't get to know that we're part of the Creator, all that sort of stuff. Okay? Just two more.
So Dean, if you sit down and do a session, if you sit down and do a session with your higher self, you could actually go through each of the archetypes and talk about and ask about what program you put in place, what archetype you put in place for the type of experience you're wanting to learn from.
Absolutely.
So because you were saying like Carla had predetermined that particular issue.
Yeah.
So you could actually go through and map out your.
Absolutely. Absolutely. You can map that out. You can say, have I finished with this?
Oh, Lord.
Can I let it go? And then ask them, how can I let it go? What do I need to do to let it go?
So that's pretty systematic.
It's actually very mechanical. When you take the mysticism out of it, it is actually very mechanical to manage the flow of energy through the system. Last time I made the analogy that the archetypes are kind of like a stream bed, and our energy is the energy that flows down the stream bed, and with each rock, each pebble, we have the choice whether we're going to flow to the right or to the left or over the top. But relatively speaking, it is a very mechanical process, intimately designed to create the maximum opportunity for the Creator to have experiences. And we knew this at one point.
And the better you can learn this while you're consciously doing it, the more you gain from it, and the more the Creator gains from it.
Well, you begin to be an active participant in the management of your life because you were aware. And instead of, grimacing that, something didn't work out, say, okay, well, what did I do to make it go to the right or to the left or whatever? But the answer, if you're going to polarize service to others, is always to look for the love in the situation and choose the love side. If you're going service to self, you want to figure out how you can get that, how you can end up the dominator out of the situation. But that's how you polarize. But in order to do that, you've got to raise your consciousness high enough in order to be able to make that choice. I mean, right now, still the probability is that we're going to have a total of 28% graduation out of this whole experience. 16% service to others and 12% service to self. Which is, for as long as we've been doing this, is not a very high graduation rate. And it's why we continue to experience the difficulties in the world that we do. Consciousness is still too low to even approach making that decision. And all of these changes that have been taking place, the additional DNA and the additional consciousness that we talked about is actually being added artificially, is what's getting us up to the 28%. That's the probability of graduation. We're not at 28% yet. The probability is we're going to get there before time runs out. So the next is transcendence. And let me reiterate again, we talked about this before. If you remain unable to make the choice between service to self and service to others, or the radiance or the absorption, then after the significance, so you choose those biases and prejudices, the nasty sounding buzzer goes off and say, okay, well, you go back and repeat the next experience and see how you do with that next experience. Hopefully you'll gain a little light. Hopefully you'll be able to use a little bit more faith. And next time, just very incrementally move towards making a choice, a polarization one way or the other. Unfortunately, we've remained in that ignorance loop for a long, long time. Okay, transcendence is when you begin to move out of that loop. The aspect all the way across is law, which is again wisdom. The characteristic of law that you experience in the transcendence of the spirit is the free will choice of alignment with love, the creative principle of creation. Or separation. And separation is an equally valid path to alignment with the Creator, alignment with love. It's just the absorption of love energy. But it gains the same level of consciousness capacity by theft of energy, theft of consciousness from other beings. So when we're talking about consciousness, we think of connecting with intelligent infinity and gaining the Creator's power. In so doing that, the service to self does the same thing by absorption of that energy, theft of that energy, as opposed to receiving it through alignment. This, again, is back to female energy. And remember, these go through fifth density. And that's why we get to sixth density, the creator of all of this, and you can't be separated anymore. You either got to stay where you are, or you've got to choose unity and give all of this separation and absorption up. Again, to aspect of law, the archetype of the mind. Okay, and very simply, this is the unattachment to the mind, to the ego.
Is it female all the way across?
Huh?
Is it female all the way across?
Yeah. These, by layers, these are all the same polarity. Okay? And of course, if you're going service to self, the choice is going to be remain your attachment to the ego, but move beyond the significator.
So that is, so the choice is either to be unattached or to remain with, okay, sorry, there's a way, if I was just trying to determine how I was going to write it down.
Again, over here, you're either aligning with the Creator's energy or choosing separation. Over here, you're choosing unattachment from the conscious mind, the ego,
versus the ego.
Versus reinforcing that. This is the experience of death and rebirth, metaphorically.
Rebirth or birth?
Reborn, rebirth. Well, actually, it was death, death and rebirth, metaphorically or actually. Since our bodies are just temporary anyway.
So on that one, since it is metaphorically, so you're talking about just the reincarnation process, whether you're going to incarnate again versus not reincarnating again?
Yeah, if you're not going to, if you polarized, if you've raised your consciousness and you've polarized to the absorption path, the service to self, you don't have to reincarnate again.
Well, that's what the question is. Okay, I'm just making sure so I have my notes right.
And last but not least, great wave. All the way across. And here it is the Creator's aspect of Yah, which is unity. And the way that I look at these is up through the significator, you're in that loop. You're just going around and around and around in that loop until you begin to awaken, you get enough light, you start making those conscious choices of choosing, by my bias, the love path as opposed to the separation path. The separation phase of the path is very viable. Then the transition phase is transcendence, and you begin to transcend that. You begin to awaken. You start to change, experience by experience, your results that you're getting. So you're still making the decisions as you go through transcendence. You're transcending the lower consciousness. You're transcending the repetitive loop without awareness. And then once you get really good at it and you're making more choices more and more, then you slip into the great way and begin to function in the great way. And this is the characteristic of infinity. You begin to experience infinity as much as we are able to experience infinity. This is male energy all the way across. So we begin with the matrix, it's male energy. We have two layers, a potentiator and the catalyst, that are female energy. We have experience that is male energy, then significator and transcendence is female energy, and then back to the great way, which is male energy.
How do you really operate when you're in the great way? I mean, if you're, what is it, like you're in the zone? I mean, is that the 2 years that Eckhart Tolle you traveled around? I mean, what state are you in at that point?
Well, the characteristic of the mind is the penetration of the veil. And according to Hawkins, in the 500s, over the 55 to 60%, you begin talking to your higher self, which is what we're learning to do, the levels that we all are.
So penetration of the veil is the starting of the communication with the higher self.
Yeah. Well, that's what you're doing. When you talk to your higher self, you're penetrating the veil. And the characteristic of great way of the body is, again, Yah, but it's abundance. No longer a perception of lack.
What about with the mind? If you are service to self, do you have a higher self that you talk with?
You have a higher self, yes. Yeah, absolutely, you do. But more likely, you're going to be talking to that intermediate guy in there that we often refer to as a nemesis. Yeah, because he's very powerful. He's not a higher self. But as far as directing a third density, I mean, lead us around by our nose. And he is a creative individual too. He doesn't create beings as to go through the process, but take whatever form that he wants, creates what are called robots, thought forms, which are his agents. And it's really tough for us to tell the difference between a real being and a thought form.
Because wouldn't he be operating through the thought form? So
Sure.
If they're animated, it's really just...
It's operating through, we couldn't tell the difference in a thought form because, we perceive this to be linear, but it's not. You know, all you gotta do is put a thought form in there and we, just assume that it's,
Would he sort of be experiencing through a thought form? Can he do that?
sure, yeah, and experience through robots too. Robots have physical form
So that's sort of his way of incarnating then.
without incarnating, yeah, he just, sends a drone. Yeah. In brevity, folks, are the human archetypes. This is how we work. Every experience that we have flows through these. Every step of the way, we have the choice, depending on our intent, to choose absorption or radiance of love energy. And when that determines the path of all of our future experiences, in turn determines the path of all of our future evolutionary process through fourth and fifth density. And this is what is actually happening every time we have an experience. This is how we bring things into our physicalities by our choice and application of emotions.
And it's kind of funny to think that it's all mapped out and we just don't remember it.
Well, it depends on what your experience is. Maybe funny or not funny.
Well, I meant more.
Yeah, but again, this is possible because of our level of consciousness. It is possible because our perception that things are in a linear fashion. But they're not. Okay? Thank y'all for coming. I appreciate your patience.
I have a quick question.
Okay.
When we stop, since we stop what we view as linear time all the time,
Mhm.
and do stuff and then start again and stop and do stuff, when we're stopping and starting, we're only stopping and starting our experience, not those around us experience. Is that correct?
How would you know the difference?
I don't know, that's what I'm asking.
No, oftentimes the whole experience is stopped. I know it was stopped and reset in 1972. I don't know.
It's because I was born then.
Huh?
Because I was born then.
That was it. Let's stop everything.
So those ones.
Yeah, no, but I presume we would never know. I mean, they could just stop us. They can take us in and out. I mean, we die all the time, and we don't know it.
And they being.
Our sixth density, our higher selves.
Okay, that's what I just want to make sure.
I mean, that's the thing is, we presume that everything is physical. It's not physical. We just think different, or they think differently. So everything changes.
Yeah, I was just curious if it was, because since everything could be simultaneous, and I was just wondering if it really mattered, if everything would just stop, or if it was going to be individual stoppings and startings, or what it would be.
Doesn't matter. We can't tell the difference.
It's all happening at once anyway.
Huh?
All happening at once anyway.
That's true. That's true.
It's all one big.
So the fluidity of it is just beyond our comprehension. There are some things that we by design cannot comprehend. We can begin to comprehend this, and I presume when you get in over here in the higher realms of consciousness, that's what you're presuming. Your understanding just grows exponentially, and you're able to experience, not just intellectually become aware of it, but actually experience that. Because the end of our experience is about 499 on Hawkins scale, about 49.9%. And when you cross over to that 50%, that is by the grace of your higher self. It is not a matter of earning it. You've worked really hard and cleared all your emotions and all that stuff that you will continue on. It is by the grace. That's why only 4% of the population has ever gone beyond the 50% mark. You're ready, if you polarize, you're ready to graduate after 40%. If you're below 40%, you're going to stay in the system. You're going to do another third density experience.
You said that's the end of the experience at 500? So,
That's the end of the prescribed range for third density, yeah.
but I mean, you can hit that and you can still be in body.
Yeah, I mean, you're not gonna evaporate or anything. I mean, there are significant numbers of the pop, not significant. There are a lot of people that are at 499 or close to it. You gotta be between 400 and 499 in order to fall into that 28% that's probability of graduation. But we have huge numbers of the population that are still below 200 or 20%. A large number below 10%. Which is why we have the nature of the planetary problems that we do. Thank y'all.
Thank you.